It's full of Harvard educational reviews, hundreds of them. All my geography books up there and here. I was a geography major at State College. I went to college 3 times, so I was English major. I had elementary ed. I took elementary and high school guidance at Tufts, psychology and all that. But I had these wonderful geography teachers at State College in Boston, Dr. Jones and Mr. Mansoyan and Mr. Spain. They were students of Dr. van Valkenburg, a great Dutch geographer who fled Hitler and came to Clark University in Worcester, and they were his students on the GI Bill. So I really had a very exemplary background in world geographies like geography of China, the land of that time, I think at 2 billion or something. South American, geography of South American countries, geography of Russia, and of course American geographies of the states. You can see a lot of that. Some of that stuff is here. There's the Atlas of the World. I love maps. There's a big map there. And I loved history, not in elementary school, but I liked it in college.
Oh, okay.
And I took history. I took Russian music from Dr. Fitzgerald, which he taught us a lot of the history of Russia, along with the music of Scriabin and Tchaikovsky and all those wonderful Russian writers and opera.
Yeah.
It was just State College of Boston was a wonderful school.
Yeah.
It's $100 a year. It was the best education I ever had. Although Howard University was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was different. That was a premier university of African Americans. It was open to whites. But places like George Washington and Georgetown were not open to blacks then. American University and Catholic University in Washington, D.C. were desegregated in that they let black students come there. Howard let anybody, but we had a lot of people from all over the world. I met my first African students there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's segregation is something that's both systemic, it's institutionalized, as opposed to when I'm in a bus station in Mattapan. I'm 12 years old. I'm coming from my violin lessons with Mr. Vincent Saka, and we're in the little kiosk kind of place that you wait out of the rain at Mattapan Square. And these two old men were in there, and I was 12 years old, and I had my violin, and I had horse meat from. I had that from Faneuil Hall. My mother told me to stop and pick up because you couldn't get beef because it went to the army. And these two men started putting their hands on me, touching I didn't really have breasts or anything, but they put their hands on my body. And I remember hitting them with my violin. And I ran out of the little waiting room. But I left my meat in there and my music books. So I put them down on a bench and went back in, and these men and people saw it. And like the Kitty Genovese story, I don't know if you know that in New York, where she was stabbed like 20, 30 times, and everybody watched it over and over, and nobody called the police. They watched her being stabbed to death by this violent man. And he killed other women too. And he had killed before that week or something, and he killed it. And nobody ever protected her. Nobody called the police. Well, nobody stopped these men from, who's that?
Miss Lewis.
Oh,
Yeah.
But kids were
I just want to make sure that this is getting the sound as well. Yeah, it has the sound in it too. Okay, just making sure.
Oh, nobody stopped to help me. I never forgot that. To me, that was utter racism. If that had been a little white girl, and she was sitting in a station with her music and her violin, and two black men put their hands on her, they'd have had him killed. They wouldn't have made it to the police station. They would have been shot, beat up, and they'd have called the cops immediately. Nobody, I never forgot that. It let me know how unprotected children of color and often women are in public places. And when I saw in the Globe the other day about the Kitty Genovese clean, I said, I don't think it's changed too much, except where you have somebody who's trained to be the Good Samaritan. And then people often have their cell phones and they record. Like somebody recorded that lady who fell into the train tracks, and people jumped in right away and didn't let her hit the third rail and pulled her up just before the train came. She fell into the pit at one of the downtown stations. It was on television the other night. She fell. You saw her legs flipping up, and these people jumped in, got her up. She didn't hit the third rail, which is, power in it. And they got her up just as the train was coming in the station. They got up in just in time. They were rolling her up. And that's like, people should have done that for Kitty Genovese. Jump right in and I mean, he stabbed her. Oh, she went help. She called, and people watched. The worst thing was, if you were afraid to come out, why didn't you call the police?
Yeah.
Why didn't you call the police? And you think of Trayvon Martin, and you know, this feeling that you can attack someone who you are afraid of. They haven't bothered you, but you're afraid of them. What is it? What is the word they use now about people who, like they did for Trayvon Martin? If you are afraid of somebody, you can protect yourself by attacking them. There's a word for it. I forget what it means. Is
Self-defense.
something like self-defense. Well, that would be different if
Stand your ground.
Stay in your ground.
Law. Oh,
Really? Not because somebody's attacking, because you think
someone's
I'm
gonna
afraid of them, and they might, because of the group they're in, their gender, they're different from me, and so I can shoot them without calling the police. Now, the man had a car, and you know, why wouldn't you just get in your car and drive away?
Yeah.
Why would you stop and shoot a teenage boy? But you see, that feeling, that's the worst kind of racism. It isn't just somebody calls you a nigger or shoves you, pushes in front of you in line, because people, your own people can do that. I mean, by your own people, and people will like your neighborhood. You might have rude people. You know, as they say in Jamaica, you're out of order, man. You know, there are people who are out of order, but when people call you a name, or you do like that owner of the Clippers, you make comments about people of color and you're dating one of them, or you don't hire certain people because you know how they are. That's prejudging. That's what we call prejudice, and that's what laws are for, to protect the public, so there's equity of treatment and protection. And I think that's the kind of racism, rather than, yeah, there's kids who call us nigger sometimes. So what? My mother used to say, ask them, can they spell it? She said there's 2 G's in it. I did that as a teacher when people swore. I said, go to the board and write it. They use the F word. I said, where's the C? Write duck, write tuck, write luck, write suck. You know, and they can't spell it because they've heard it and they think it's a power word.
Exactly.
There was a book I read called The Teacher and the Spinster by Sylvia Ashton Warner years ago when I was in grad school. She was a teacher in the outback of Australia, and she used to have a big barrel, and it was full of words with magnets on it, and kids would get a fishing pole, and the end of the fishing pole was a magnet. You would drop your pole in and pick up a word, and that would be your word for that day. And she said the words they learned right away were kiss, love, fight, death, kill. Words that have emotional power behind them. Oh, no, not me, James Petaway. I thought it was for Jean. Sorry to interrupt that.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I could hear the intercom.
It's fine.
It's what you call racism can be systemic, it can be personal, it can be a national belief system, it can be a practice that people do almost unconsciously. Like you look at, the Globe had an article about all your boards of directors and major corporations. Very, very few have any women in them, and only a few have one is the president of the board. And yet women are at least half the population. Everybody's mothers, sisters, brothers, and wives. We all have the same intellectual capabilities, so it's a practice, it's a custom. And it's like you're satisfied going in, and you don't see any black teachers in schools. To schools like 90% black kids. Where are the black teachers? Look at the textbooks. Is there anything that looks like this child? Are there anybody that looks like those children's father? Can you imagine white kids growing up all their life and never seeing a white man in school? Well, that's what happens to a lot of black kids, even in Mexico. Going through school, they never see a black man as a teacher, not even as a custodian, maybe even as a bus driver, because when I started, there weren't any women bus drivers. There weren't any women policemen. There weren't any women firemen. So things have changed right now. I mean, that was because of laws and because of people who fought. It's those kids.
No, that was Miss Lewis.
Oh, does she want you?
I'm not sure. I think
Dawn?
I think she was just coming to check in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on nonviolence throughout the civil rights movement? Like,
You mean CORE and SNCC and the Nonviolent Coordinating Committee?
Yeah, like what were your...
Well, they were points of view. You had Martin Luther King, who felt that That was a very strong, powerful tactic to be nonviolent, to not respond to violence with violence. Then you had Malcolm X and a lot of others who said, "You hit me, you hit me once, you better kill me because you hit me again, I'm going to kill you." In other words, he said, "I only have two cheeks to turn. I'm not turning any other." You know, they say turn the other cheek. There were others who felt you respond in kind, and that's true throughout history. Their tactics, their strategies, they work in some things. This is what South Africa did under Mandiba. That's what they call him, Mandiba. He felt that nonviolence, the sit downs, the sit ins, those ways of being nonviolent, which informed Martin Luther King, were very powerful. And in fact, they are. They're not the only tactics, but they require a lot of work and they require mass belief and action. In other words, just can't a few little people do it. You may start, or you probably get killed. You have to be very brave, and you have to figure out what if your strategy works. Then what do you do next? Like, you're going to run it now. Are you going to be fair? Are you going to make sure there are women there? You're going to make sure there are poor people there. You're going to make sure there are people from certain geographical areas who've been excluded from governance. You see this in the huge continent of Africa, where you could put the United States in the Sahara Desert 3 times. It's how big it is. And because of colonialism, structures of governance were destroyed and are not in place. And part of your problem with hundreds of young men who have guns and no job and no purpose and no place, who become what now they call them terrorists. They used to call them. There's always a name for what we call. There's a name for nigger. You can call them what you want, but there's a name for. They use that as a word that's denigrating, the bad person. If you use that, we don't like it. We felt it's insulting, and some people want to insult you. Others don't know any better. You know, some people just don't know any better. And then black people, you know, you try to take the sting out of the word by using it. Hey, that's so sweet nigger over there. People say, that's my nigger. You better let his behind alone. You know, people will take ownership of the word and try to turn it into something that is theirs and not negative. But that's hard. And there's that history there.
Yeah.
If somebody calls you a bitch, okay? I have dogs, female dogs, 2 of them. They're bitches, they're females. You have a dam and you have the bitch. You have the male and you have the female. The animals have their names. You don't want to insult a person by calling them an animal name. A filly is what? A female horse. Or a mare. You have a mare and a filly. You have a male horse and a female horse. Now, if the mare is the one who would somebody call you a mare instead of a bitch, or call you a cow? Now, sometimes people use cow as a word of denigration because you have a bull. He's the male. He's a male of the cows, of cattle, and they may mean the cow that you're not attractive, or you're a person who's your mother with a lot of milk or something. You know, it depends on how you use it, what a word means. But we know instinctively when it's used in a negative way. Everybody knows what a word's generally used to put them down.
Yeah.
And of course, sometimes those are fighting words, like the gang, like gang colors, or you say some things, you're asking for it. You know, you see it on the train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could go on that one, but
Okay.
I tell my kids, please, we talk about this in Black Respect Day for the MECO students.
Mm-hmm.
Why you call each other nigger on the bus? It's a real problem. Do they still do it? No.
Do they still call
Black
each
kids
other?
call each other nigger.
Yeah.
They're trying to take the sting out of it. You have to think about what that meant. Nigra, nigger. It's like you took the slave master's word for you and you incorporated it, and you now you're letting them define you. You have a name. Like, white people don't call each other hunky. They call each other by their name. I remember one of my Asian students, Edward Sue, Arlington, he's a doctor now in upstate New York. Edward said in one of our children's conferences we had for MECO, and they had the word minority. He said, wait a minute, don't call me a minority. My name is Edward Sue. I'm Chinese American. My parents...
Just make sure you're still in the camera.
My parents are born in mainland China. I live in the South Cove, Chinatown in Boston. He said, call me by what I am. My name, where I live, my country. There is no country called minority. Do not call me minority. There's more Chinese than any other country in the world. India's second, China's number one in terms of population size. So he said,